Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Show Art Podcast. I'm your host, Ross Baxter, and today is episode 87 of the series. Today on the show, we've got an amazing guest for you. We've got Cnotbusch on the show. Christopher, thank you so much for joining us here. It's a pleasure to have you, man.
Oh, no problem. Thanks for having me, Ross.
Anytime. So everyone, today we're going to be diving into Chris's journey on Twitch and his journey as an artist, as a sculptor. So if you guys love environment art, if you guys love sculpting, you name it, this is the guest that you're not going to want to miss. There's so many great things that Chris has done through his journey, and we're going to be diving into that. So I guess first things first, Chris, just tell us a wee bit about yourself. We'll just start off with good old introductions. Tell us a wee bit about yourself.
Okay, well, like you said, my name's Christopher Notbusch. Cnotbusch is what I'm known online for, and I am 30 years old, married, have a baby on the way,
Oh,
and
awesome.
we are actually due in 15 days.
Oh,
So
really? Is that
first
soon?
kid. Yeah, she's
Congratulations.
ready to go any moment. We might have to cancel this podcast if it happens soon. No.
Yeah, you got to
But
prioritize, man. You got to prioritize.
no, we should be all right. And then I'm a self-taught sculptor and a streamer.
Mm-hmm.
So I kind of combined streaming and sculpting to kind of create my own little niche,
Mm-hmm.
little thing that I do that nobody else does. So I've been doing that since 2011.
2011 is mental.
Uh,
Because
uh,
you were one of the very first. This is what I've heard through just obviously watching your stream. So you're one of the very first artists to stream on Twitch.
Yep, I was one of the first. It was kind of a small group of us.
Mm-hmm.
It was there was no creative category or anything. The only thing there was game streams.
Okay.
So I guess I'll start with my story. So I was working. I was actually a department manager of electronics at Walmart. So
Okay.
that was my
Nice.
job. That was my job at the time when I first started streaming, and my dad always taught me to have like don't just have one source of income. Like always, use your free time wisely and try and create other avenues. Don't put all your eggs in one basket. Because he's a hands-on guy, so he's had side jobs doing like home repair,
Yeah.
remodeling, stuff like
Always
that.
busy.
Yeah, always busy, exactly. So, I was just working, doing the normal, 9 to 5 grind at a job. I wasn't, I was okay working there and whatnot. I paid the bills, but I wanted to start something else. So I started thinking of ideas on how I could use the skills I have already, because I was always involved in art. How could I use those skills to kind of generate some passive income? And my first idea was actually to start painting and buying, painting, and reselling sets of like Warhammer 40K minis.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. Sweet.
So, because I knew how to paint, so I figured, I'll just do that, create a little bit extra money, and that was all right. It did all right for a while. So I'd buy like a set of like Tyranids, and I'd paint them all, and then I'd post them. I'd buy them for like $30 and then post it and sell it for like 60. So I make like $30. The hourly, you don't break down hourly rate with stuff like that because you'll be pretty sad. But
Mm-hmm.
that was $30 I didn't have before,
Of
and I
course.
also got to train and improve my skills. Well, I got started to realize there's actually a lot of people doing that. So I was like, well, what can I do? So the next idea was, what can I do to make my stuff stand out from everyone else? And I was like, oh, I know. I was just getting into like using polymer clay and sculpting when I ended high school.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, oh, let me go buy a box of that clay and I'll actually sculpt like the bases of them and make these custom looking bases. And so I did that. I bought some polymer clay, just a box of Super Sculpey, started sculpting the bases. So now my sets of minis came with custom bases, as opposed to
Awesome.
just those little black discs.
Yeah.
So well, now I had this clay sitting there and I had the paint and I was handling all these little sculptures that were really cool looking, and it just got me really wanting to get back into sculpting because I hadn't sculpted in 2 years at that point,
Okay.
because the last time I did it was in high school, and I did it quite a bit in high school.
Mm-hmm.
And but no one ever teaches you that you can make a living doing that.
Yeah. Of
Like
course.
you get at the end of high school and they're like, oh, you need a you need to come up with a career path, you know. And it's
Yeah.
like being a sculptor for a living was like, that's like that's more far fetched than being like an actor or a professional football player or
Right.
something, you know. So I was like, well, I need to come up with something. So I came up with I wanted to become an industrial designer,
Mhm.
just because, you know, just to have a job essentially. So that's pretty much like product design and engineering, that kind of stuff. So I started going to school for that, and obviously I didn't have that same passion I had for just like sculpting, you know. So,
Yeah.
you know, I did about 2 years of it, and then I was just like, nah, this is just not for me. Quit, and then I was just working, you know, just normal retail jobs for,
Yeah.
I don't know, a little while, and then this led into me starting the side business of painting these minis. Well, then, okay, so now we get to the point where I actually start sculpting again,
Oh, it's kicking
and
it
I
off. Here we
create.
go.
Yeah, so at the time I was playing, I was a big fan of StarCraft 2.
Mhm.
Wings of Liberty was in beta, so I was beta playing the game in beta, and I was like, well, what am I gonna do as my first project? Well, I was like, oh, well, my favorite race has always been the Zerg, so I created a Hydralisk from the Zerg, you know, and this was just all like this was just because I really wanted to get back into the clay, or wanted to sculpt, and then I continued on with the painting of the minis, and I had this Hydralisk sitting on my desk, you know, just staring at me, and I was like, it just another light bulb moment. I was like, I wonder if I can just post this up on my eBay store and sell it. And so I posted it for like $50 just to
Okay.
see if somebody would buy it, and it sold like the night that I
Oh,
that
the
I
day you did
posted.
it.
Yeah, so I was like, oh wow, okay, so big light bulb, because I was like, well, I just made $50, you know, selling my first piece that I made. That
Yeah.
pays for the materials for the next
What a
thing,
feeling
you
that
know.
would be. Yeah.
Yeah, and I spent roughly the same time I would painting a whole set of minis, which
Mhm.
I only made like $30. So I was like, okay, oh, this is cool. So then I made another StarCraft character. The second one I made was a roach, and I remember I upped the price to like 160 or 120, I can't remember. And yeah, sold the night I posted it, like it
Oh
sold.
my
You know,
gosh.
so I was like, okay, all right, we got something here. So then I just kept making StarCraft 2 characters, and posting. I posted on like, you know, this is all before Twitch was even in
Okay.
the scene. So I didn't even know if Twitch was existing at this point. I think
So are
they
you like
started in
20?
2011.
Like how old are you around this time? Like 18,
Let's
20?
see. Let's see. So I graduated high school in 2007. I was like
Okay.
17 years old then. Then fast forward 2 years for the college, that was just a waste of time. So
Okay.
that's 8, 9, and then so this around 2010. So I think I'm like 21 ish, somewhere around there,
Awesome.
20, 21 years old.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, and then um, so yeah, so then I made the second one. It sold, and obviously I had something here, so I had a little niche, and I started posting on forums, you know, to try and find more business, right? So
Okay.
I would just post my work as like, okay, here's my work, check it out, blah blah blah, and then people would just naturally want one of those, you know, they just
Yeah.
see it and they're like, oh, I want that, so then they message me, tell them how much, and then that's when it started getting into more of a commission type
Yeah.
scenario. Because what ended up happening actually, so early in the very early days, I would make these and sell these. So I'd make like StarCraft 2 stuff, and I would be openly selling it on eBay. Well, I actually got contacted by Activision's attorneys saying that I got to see my first cease and desist. It's actually the only one I ever got.
What's that mean?
um,
What's that mean? Sorry.
it means you have to stop, like, hey, this is our stuff, you know, you can't
Oh,
be
right. Of
making
course.
this
Yeah.
stuff, you need
Okay.
to stop, you know, you're making our stuff and selling it without our permission.
Yeah.
So that's when things started, you know, I had started learning about all that stuff, and i
Mhm.
and i transferred more into a commission based thing.
Okay.
So that's which kind of keeps things safe, you know, because I don't decide what I make. You know, my clients, they come to me and they say I want this, you know,
Yeah.
that's on them. It's just like with a tattoo artist, you know. You don't see
Ah, that makes
company. You
sense now.
notice,
Yeah. Yeah.
you notice how like Disney doesn't go after tattoo artists for like Mickey Mouse tattoo or Wally
Yeah.
tattoos or something like that. It's because the tattoo artist isn't making a tattoo of Wally and then trying to sell it. You know,
Mhm.
like saying, "Hey, I'm selling this." They are just, I have a service of making tattoos. this person wanted Wally, that's on them, so
Yeah.
that kind of rewired my business model for just doing commission work, and
Mm-hmm.
that's kind of what I've been doing ever since. And so at first it was just all StarCraft 2 stuff. I did like hundreds of different StarCraft 2
Nice.
characters, and at all while I was kind of like gaining my skills, so
Mm-hmm.
and I had actually started. I quit my job at um, I think at that time I quit my job working at like Target or something like that, and tried to do sculpting full time.
Yeah.
Because I kind of had some momentum going, and I thought maybe I could do it. It was a bad idea. It did work out. It was like
At
I
least you
wasn't
tried.
charging
Yeah.
enough. Yeah, I
Yeah.
tried, failed, and then frantically got my job, and that's when I started working at Walmart. And
Okay.
because it's easy to get a job at Walmart. You just they're always hiring.
They're
So, and I
they're
actually
always on
had
the move.
yeah, I had actually known a friend who worked he was the manager in the electronics department at that time, so he
Mm-hmm.
got me right in working with him, so it was all right for a while. And then I kept sculpting in the background, so I was just working my day job and sculpting, and time fast forwards, I get promoted to manager at the job, and then at that point I had discovered what streaming was from a
Mm-hmm.
friend. They had told me about Twitch and it's game streaming. People watch people play games, and so I was like, "Oh, this is something I really want to do." And I saved up for a computer. I didn't want to sculpt on stream. I just wanted to be a gamer,
Okay.
So I saved up, got a computer, was ready to stream, and then like weeks went by, months went by where I wasn't able to really make it happen because between my full-time job and the sculpting work
Mm-hmm.
after my job, I was just so tired and
Just
exhausted and
exhausted.
had no
Yeah.
time to do a gaming stream. I didn't want to be in front of people like all nerve-wracked and stuff when
Yeah.
I just wanted to relax and play games in my free time. So then another light bulb moment of okay, well, I wonder if I combine my commission sculpting time with streaming. I wonder if I streamed my making of my StarCraft commissions, if people would actually want to watch that. And at first I was like, no, they're not going to want to watch that. It's probably really boring or something like that.
Oh, dude,
But I
it's the
did it.
most
But
coolest
I
experience watching you sculpt, dude. Like,
yeah,
I try not
but
to
I
geek
did
out.
it. Yeah, I did it anyways. So I started streaming, and at the time it wasn't really it was kind of on the borderline of breaking the rules of Twitch at that time,
All right,
because
interesting, nice.
yeah, because the rule of the TOS at that time was it had to be game related content.
Ah, right, okay, okay.
But I was in there because I was making game characters, which is technically game related content, right? So, because I'm making StarCraft characters from the game. So I did that, and obviously Twitch, I had no idea how they would react to
Mm-hmm.
me doing that on their platform, because at that time, Justin TV, if you remember,
I've heard.
was
Oh my gosh, I haven't not
uh,
heard that name in years.
yeah, Justin TV was still around, but it was kind of, you could just tell it was just dying. There's barely anybody watching there.
Mm-hmm.
Half of the content creators were like, streaming things they shouldn't be streaming. So
Yeah.
I was like, I don't want to even start with that. So I was like, I want to start on Twitch. That's where everybody is.
Yeah.
So I started streaming, making my StarCraft characters under the StarCraft game category, because
Okay.
there was no other categories other than game categories. So, and then time progressed. The stream actually, it was a little bit slow at the start, and then all of a sudden, I think it was a Dota 2 character. I got a commission for a Dota 2 character,
Yeah.
and then things really started like escalating after that, because
Wow.
yeah, I had like 600 viewers average when I was working on that Dota 2
Yeah.
character. And because you got to imagine, back then there was nothing but people playing games. So
Of
all of a
course.
sudden all of a sudden you're going like, oh, I'm gonna go watch some Dota 2, and you scroll through and you see sculpting,
Yeah.
Dota 2 character. You're, oh, what's this? So it just like really kind of like got a lot of traction really quick.
Yeah.
And um, let's see here. And that went on for probably about 6 months. It took me from when I started streaming till when I got partnered on
Mm-hmm.
Twitch. So
What a
and then I
journey.
had Yeah, and League of Legends had gotten really popular, and I started doing League of Legends characters and did, characters for bigger streamers,
Yeah,
and
just building up from there.
yep, and just and stuck with it. And now let's see here. So at this time in my life, I
Mm-hmm.
had right after I got partnered, I decided to try again becoming a full-time sculptor.
Okay, nice.
So so I started it just was working out where I was making almost the same amount from the streaming and the sculpting as I was from my day job, which I wasn't getting paid very much, and
Yeah,
I didn't like being there. So I
of
was like,
course.
screw it, let's try it again. So I quit the job there, uh, moved became a full-time sculptor streamer,
Mm-hmm.
and yeah, just kind of grinded that out for a while, and yeah, and
Here you are
then
today.
yeah, well, kind of the story that so there was I was with my ex at the time, and I was
Mm-hmm.
living in Colorado, and just I was living this kind of like this day in day out kind of grind, and like you get to that point where you're just like, oh, what is this even for, like
Yeah,
like I was kind of struggling, and I wasn't very like I didn't have that discipline, I didn't have the that organization, like was nothing, so it was just like it was kind of like chaos at the
yeah,
beginning because it was all this success really quickly, and I've never being your own boss and running your own business, it doesn't you don't just learn it overnight,
yeah. It
it
takes
takes
time, man. I'm doing the
yeah
same
so
thing right now.
yeah so it's just like it was so much all at once, and it just kind of I had like a moment of where I crashed, where okay, so things weren't working out again.
Mm-hmm.
And this was mostly because at this time, Colorado had legalized marijuana,
Mm-hmm.
and I was living there before that, and it was actually pretty cheap to live there. But then after they legalized it, everyone started it was like one of the first country or first states in the U.S. to do that.
Yeah,
So everyone was flocking there for this very reason,
everyone's literally just
and
moving.
yeah, so the rent prices like almost tripled in the
Oh
course of like
gosh,
three
right.
years.
Ouch.
So I was paying like 860 a month for my apartment, which was manageable. I was
Yeah.
making ends meet just fine then. Yeah, but the last time I was going to sign my lease 3 years later,
Mm-hmm.
they wanted like 1600 a month for the
Whoa. Right.
same
Okay.
place,
Yeah. Yeah.
nothing different. And they're like, yeah, I was like, how can you do this? Blah blah blah. And they're like, we promise it's comparable to everyone
Mm-hmm.
else. So I looked around, obviously to try to find something else, and it
Yeah.
was everything was really high. So I was like, okay, this isn't working. I was like, I need to move back home, which
Yeah.
is all the way over in Illinois. I called my parents. It's like,
Mm-hmm.
this is what's going on. I need to move home and for a while get reestablished. And I had been with my ex for 7 years at that point,
Right.
and it was a combination of the chaos and disorganization, and not knowing who I was as a person, and then
Yeah.
the moving. She ended up breaking up with me like two
Right.
days before I moved. So
Literally everything
I was
kicked
at
off.
yep. So then, anyways, so fast forward, I moved back home after everything kind of like I was at this lowest, probably the lowest point in my
Mm-hmm.
life, and I just took like 3 months off, which as a streamer was like very bad news, but I
Yeah.
didn't care at that time. I took 3 months off. I started a garden in my backyard, just kind of like
Okay.
took the time to like reset, decide how I want my life to be, did a
Mm-hmm.
little bit of soul searching, all that stuff,
Nice. Good. Good. Yeah.
and just kind of came back a new person. And so while I was gone and while all that chaos was happening, um my channel had shrunken down. I had like an average of like 60 subscribers,
Mm-hmm.
low viewer count and all that stuff. And I started back up this time, with a good strong game plan, organization, discipline, all those things. I was the person that I should have been before. But
Yeah.
anyways, fast forward 3 years from that, the rebuilding, and that's when I met my wife,
Yeah.
and then she really accelerated my growth from there because she's she's a motion designer. She's
Oh,
good with
right, sick,
Photoshop.
nice, super cool, nice.
Yeah, so she does all like the behind the scenes stuff to make the stream look really nice, to make
Yeah,
my photos look really nice. That's actually how we met. Me and her met on my stream. She
right. Oh,
she
really?
started
What
off
a
as a
story.
viewer. Yeah, yeah. She started off as a viewer from Germany,
Mm-hmm.
and she just started messaging me talking about helping me with my photos, which she did a lot. She helped a lot of streamers, and we talked back and forth. She was helping me with my photos, and then I asked her what game she played, and we compared game lists of what we played, and she played Rocket League and I had Rocket
You had
League,
Rocket
so I
League.
installed it. Yeah, so we played Rocket League together, and then just spent so much time together, and we just got
Mm-hmm.
closer and closer and closer, and then all of a sudden we're in this serious long distance relationship,
Yeah,
so and then at the same time, she's helping me grow and rebuild, and kind of continue the work that I was doing for those 3 years
yeah.
solo. So
What an amazing woman. Yeah, that's awesome.
yeah, yeah, and then that kind of gave me the drive to even push even further, because before I was okay with just getting by, what I'm
Mm-hmm.
saying, just it's just me, like I don't need much, I'm in my I was in that was back when I had the little workshop like shed in the
Yeah,
backyard. I don't know
I
if you
remember
remember
it.
that one.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So I was in this little 10 by 10 box,
Mm-hmm.
it was like my little workspace, living space. Like
Here,
it
it
was
was
just
still cool, dude. Like the photos on
yeah,
Instagram, it's still super sick.
yeah, yeah, yeah. I love that. I love that workshop was kind of like it was like the ground zero of the rebuild. You know what I'm
Mm-hmm.
saying? Like that's where I put my life back together. My work back together, and
Yeah,
then yeah, it's just been like, and then after that, it's just been a snowball of just success and regrowth.
yeah.
And yeah, now me and my wife, obviously we closed in. She's here now in America.
Mm-hmm.
I married her, and we have a baby on the way. And she still works with me hand in hand, helps me. Now she's moved up to working with paint too, and
Yeah,
helping me do paint and stuff like that. And we're working towards training her to be a sculptor too, so we can kind of
wow.
tag team everything, So
Yeah, dude. Like
yeah, that's pretty much it. Yeah.
that is like the most epic story so I've ever had in the podcast. Like,
Uh,
oh
uh,
my word, what an intro, folks! That's just we're just warming up as well. Gee whiz,
yeah,
what a story! That's amazing to hear. It's because like I've talked to so many guests, and it's like I tend to talk so much, right? Like I have a habit of just talking so much. It's so nice to just listen and like hear like the whole sort of journey. Wow,
yeah.
right?
It's a lot, and I left out a lot of details, but yeah, it's I don't know, it's been an adventure, that's for sure.
Of course.
And really it just kind of boils down to one thing I had going good for myself in the past,
Mm-hmm.
or before I really got a good foundation in my life. What I had going good for me in the past was the no fear, diving in head
Yeah.
first mentality, because that's you know if I was afraid to make that first step of quitting
Yeah.
my day job and pursuing this full time, or even starting just that little like sculpting here and there in the background,
Mm-hmm.
like if I didn't do any of that stuff, it would have never became what it is. You know what I'm saying?
Of
So,
course.
so it's a that's the good qualities I had: the fearlessness and the impulsiveness to
Yeah.
just do things, in the
Like
past, and then
like at the end of the day, man, you can tell it's obviously it's paid off. Like all your years of hard work, and like I'm pretty sure you get asked all the time on your stream, like how do you become a sculptor? How do I become successful on Twitch? And then it's like, for example, all the new people who are joining in on joining watching you live, like
hmm
they'll see the success, but they don't forget like it's taken you like 8 to 10 years. So you've been doing it 10 years and then 8 years full time, that you've been so committed and focusing purely on your craft, and
yeah.
it's making sure to get that point across that everyone realizes that like it just didn't happen overnight, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, so yeah, it's the same common thing. People see the results and that's what they want, but they don't want to do what it takes to
Yeah.
get to that point. You know what I'm saying? And obviously you don't need to burden yourself with how much it takes to get to where I am or where anybody else is,
Mm-hmm.
because anybody that gets to where they're going, they're just kind of following their feet, one moment, one
Yeah.
step at a time. It's not like you don't need to take on the weight of I didn't at the beginning of this take on the weight of becoming this sculptor Twitch guy,
Yeah,
because if I took that on, I would have never started. It would have crushed my spirit of what it took to get to there, So
yeah,
I always try to convince people to kind of approach it from that mentality. Just kind of do what you want to do,
yeah.
work hard and see where you end up.
Hmm.
Don't concern yourself with the results of where you're going.
Definitely. Like I
Yeah.
feel like so many people, obviously it's down to your like your background and who you're surrounded by. Like you said, obviously that your dad had like an amazing mentality. He was making sure to bring you up the right way, and I was really fortunate as well having my dad as well. My dad was always he would constantly remind me of everything, and like
Yeah.
he would always be like, Ross, work hard, listen. Like every time I went to school, my dad would say the same exact same thing. Like I would not be allowed to leave the car until he said it. He'd be like, work hard, don't get distracted, don't let anyone annoy you. Like make sure that you stick up for yourself and just have fun. Like he would always make sure that I was always level-headed, looking after myself, focused, and just constantly just going after it. And like I've recently had to make the move of going back home again, and I'm really fortunate to have my dad to let me do that, etc. Because obviously what's going on, etc. in the world, but it's like you have to have like these people, or it helps such a long way having these people support you, and at the end of the day you just have to be like you said, be persistent and realize that like at the end of the day, like it's so cool. Like when I'm watching you, like no joke, like when I'm watching you sculpt, man, it's so awesome. And then like when it comes to like just like your journey, like there's so many things we're going to be diving into on today's episode. Like we'll talk about like the self-taught aspect as well. But like the main thing I always get from your stream is, as cliche as it sounds, but you can just tell how much you love it, and it's like so many people think things are like impossible to like. I don't know, like they'll have a dream, whether it's I don't know, become a sculptor, become work in games, you name it, whatever it may be. Like you can literally become anything. It's just down to putting the time in and being consistent.
Yeah, it's true. And I mean, if you approach it from a zero expectations perspective,
Yeah,
what I'm saying? Like, and
definitely.
just little, be more of a passenger in your life, like, work hard, have kind of goals of what you want to do, but
Mhm.
leave them rough, leave them blurry,
Yeah.
because, life has these ways of doing twists and turns. And if you're so heart set on one thing, you might miss, something that's obviously staring in front of you. Because sculpting to me was staring me in the face ever since I was in high school. But I went
Mhm.
through all this, like, listening to the doubt and fear of others to, pursue something that's more financially stable and blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
If I would have just probably stuck with that from the beginning, which was already there right in front of me,
Yeah.
I would have been, I got where I'm going, how I got where I'm going, and it is what it is. But that's the lesson that I learned looking back at
Yeah.
stuff like that.
I think it's always great when
Yeah.
people actually make sure that they reflect and understand, like learn through your years. Like for example, each time you tried something, like going back to the point you said a few minutes ago, was you weren't afraid to give it a go, but you kept trying, you trialed and errored, you see what worked, see what didn't. And
Yep.
the cool thing that I completely agree with in terms of what your journey was, which is so crucial, is like for example you were trying to figure out what's trending as well, based on like you were saying about so you had Dota first, then you had League of Legends, like you were
Hmm.
like following like, because at the end of the day when it comes to thinking, this is the biggest thing, like there's a healthy balance between obviously like sculpting's your passion, which is obviously the being able to do that, like that's the reward, but also there's the business aspect as well, so
Yeah.
making sure that you're gaining those viewers through the trends, so like that in itself is
It's
always
it
so
it is a
important.
balance. Yeah, yeah. You have to wear many hats,
Yeah.
and the hat that I love wearing is being the sculptor, being the artist. But
Hmm.
the one I don't like wearing, but I have to, is the businessman and the manager and the organizer. Because in a normal company, each person has these roles, right, to play
Yeah.
in this company. But when you're a self-employed one-man show, you have to wear all those hats.
Yeah.
So, if you don't do it, nobody else is gonna do it.
Yeah, so when it comes to like obviously your journey, like you've done so many different things, and obviously the self-taught route has played a big part in your life. and obviously going down freelance, etc. You name it. What when it comes to like so when I do this podcast, it's always about like the education side of things and like teaching and so forth. Like, what's your thoughts on sculptors going down the education route? Because I understand you've done everything through self-taught. What's your kind of perspective on that?
Uh, so this is the way I like to explain it. When you teach yourself, it's kind of the slow road. You know
Mm-hmm.
what I'm saying?
Yeah,
So,
definitely.
when you learn from somebody, because I also teach now, when you learn from somebody, or you're going to a class to be taught to, um, it's like hitting the fast forward button on learning progress. Because when you have an experienced teacher, they're teaching you what you want to know. Well, first of all, you want to know it, so you're going to retain all that knowledge that he's dropping on you. And all
Mm-hmm.
that knowledge he's dropping is stuff that has been, that has been beneficial in that person's journey, stuff that took them years to figure out, or, to
Yeah.
solve. Because honestly, when you're working with stuff, any teacher that teaches you is going to be teaching you what works for them. So that
Mm-hmm.
means you could essentially learn from everybody, because everybody kind of figures out different things or different ways to do things and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So when you learn from others, it is a faster road
Mm-hmm.
to getting results and to growing. But that being said, I mean, I taught myself everything that I know. So,
Wow. Right. Okay.
and with the power of the internet, and if you have the right mindset,
Yeah.
you can really teach yourself anything. And once you do that, once you do teach yourself something like what I've taught myself, it really kind of proves to you that anything is possible.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not afraid to learn how to do anything now after
Yeah.
going through what I've gone through and learned what I've learned on my own. Like, it
Yeah.
gives you that kind of like that confidence you know, to just, and that can be kind of against me sometimes, because there'd be like
Right.
things that I want to buy or whatever, and I'm just like, nah, I'll just learn how to do it
Just learn
myself
to
and
do
make it
it.
myself. Yeah, like I have all the time in the world, when and that's the thing. You
Yeah.
start to realize that there's certain things that it's better to just pay someone else to do it than to spend my time to make it or to learn it, because
Yeah.
doing something with speed and precision comes with time and experience.
Yeah. It comes
So
with a
like,
cost.
yeah, so like the sculptures or the things that I make now, I'm doing so much faster than I was when I first started,
Mm-hmm.
because you're just more accurate with everything. You know exactly what to do. Like, you just, I don't know, it just grows. Something that grows. So you're really slow, and it's really frustrating at the start, and then that gets less and less as you go. So
Like, I remember one thing. So I asked you this question on stream. It must have been about like, I don't know 5 months ago or something. I was like, Chris, are you like afraid of making anything? And the first straight away I was like, nope, I just love sculpting. It's just like
yeah,
I just do what I
I'm
do.
not. Nah, I'm not really, because okay, so my whole adventure has been doing commission work,
Yeah.
so, and constantly, like, oh man, there's sometimes I was really petrified at the beginning,
Mhm.
when clients would want me to do something that I've just never done before. I have no idea how to do it, but I take it on. I take on the commission. Now I have to produce. I have to make something. So I would always just tell myself, just keep moving your hands and just have faith in your abilities to get it
Yeah.
done, and it always works out. So, after going through that kind of like that crucible enough times, it's gotten to the point where I just realize, it doesn't matter what comes my way, I can deal with it. So,
Yeah.
so
Nah, that's great. Because like carrying on with this kind of theme that we're going on, like one of the other things that I kind of wanted to touch on was you may think it sounds so stupid, but when it comes to Twitch, like one of the hardest things I feel is because I do Twitch myself, but nowhere near like on your scale. Like I'm just chilling, etc. Just trying to like, dude, I know you're super relaxed. Like you're like the definition of relaxed when it comes to the streaming. But the coolest thing I think you do so well, and this is why, like, the reason why I want to bring this up is when it comes to Twitch, it's hard to kind of for a lot of people to get things rolling or to figure out how to keep an audience. And one of the things I think you do so well is, and it's like you have like the ability, like you've trained yourself or the way you work to multitask in the sense of being able to interact with the audience. Like, I've never really seen you miss a comment. And when you're getting watched by so many people and the focus you still give to your audience while still being able to deliver such high quality, and like, for example, like, I have one random question before we continue this. How many troll heads have you made, by the way?
Oh, geez, I
It's
don't
like,
even know,
there's
man.
got to be millions, man. It's got to
That,
be.
that Well, that's fairly a new thing. So let's
Right,
see,
okay.
let's see, one, two, three, four, five,
Oh,
five
gosh.
projects so far.
Yeah,
Yeah, and the first ones weren't as like elaborate as the ones we're doing nowadays.
yeah.
They were kind of like really quick, but I would say that there's probably a good like maybe 500 little
Damn,
troll
right.
heads there.
That's
Yeah.
what I'm talking about. You just get your little
Uh,
army rocking, just like army
well, I was
Cnotbusch.
just thinking, because they had that channel point system and everybody's got it, but nobody
Yeah.
really uses it. I was like, I don't know. Man, see, this is the thing is like doing Twitch grows. It's growing just
Mhm.
like being a sculptor. You come up with new ideas, you try stuff, see what works, what doesn't.
Mhm.
And the newest thing I've kind of come to and figured out is to really use the tools that Twitch gives you
Okay.
because me as a partner or and anybody on Twitch really there's all these little features and things you can use. So I always found myself kind of like battling, like going upstream trying to invent my own systems for everything,
Mhm.
instead of just using what's already there, and just making use of that. So I've been
Yeah.
really trying to um, make use of that. Like for example, like I used to think that I could add value to being a subscriber
Mhm.
by doing like a subscriber giveaway or something like that.
Okay.
And I realized that that seems like a good idea, but in the long run, it's not really. And
Mhm.
so I switched to doing just a giveaway for anybody, because technically, if somebody's there viewing, they are supporting what you do,
Yeah. Of course.
by being there. And
Yeah.
a lot of people, a lot of streamers, especially bigger ones, don't have that mentality. Like if they have the mentality of if you're not subscribing and donating, then you're just nothing, and
Yeah.
that's not. I like to come from the mentality of if you're there, if you're viewing my work, then you're obviously probably sharing it, talking about it, spending your time
Yeah.
with me there is supporting me. So,
Yeah.
uh, so I do a giveaway for everybody, and I switched on like to view video content like past broadcasts and
Mhm.
any like tutorial, which I started making like in-depth tutorials. You have to be a subscriber to see that stuff, and that's a feature that's already built into Twitch. You just have
Yeah.
to flip a switch, and then all of a sudden, only subscribers can see videos. Now, people that aren't subscribed, they can still view live content, and everything's great. It's just if they want to see that, added value to being
Yeah.
a subscriber now, because now there's this exclusive, like in-depth tutorials and past broadcasts and all that stuff you can see if you just pay $5 a month. So
Yeah. Like, dude,
so
like, that's why I think it's so like you do it like. I'm trying not to geek out. So your stream is that good, man. Like, I love it to bits. Like, I've been making my growing my points. I got 12,000 at the moment. I'm just gonna like drop them so you can make some troll heads soon. I'm gonna be like, boom, troll head time, and then
uh,
just I'll just go get up to 100,000, then just one whole day of streaming of just troll heads.
oh boy.
Be ready, man. I'm gonna be ambushing you with them. It's just
All
like
right, all right.
you're just like, when's Ross gonna drop this?
And I think the key with that too is like, and that's why I wanted to make them more detailed and better,
Yeah,
because in the end, it's not really a waste of time if I'm going to be selling these pieces
of
afterwards.
course.
Even if they only sell for a little bit, it's whatever. It's
Yeah,
better than nothing. And it's just it adds again, it's using the system and that's already there to add entertainment value or being a viewer value to the stream. And
yeah,
also adds value to being a subscriber again because you earn twice as many points if you're a subscriber. So,
yeah.
it's just, yeah.
No, it's so good because like it's almost like the reason why I want to bring this kind of topic up is that at the end of the day you're like making the most of the one platform. Like so many people go to like yes, social media. There's so many different social media pages out there. You name it. But
Yeah.
there's so many tools within like for example, you said there's so many tools available on Twitch. And when I think of your Twitch subscriber, it's almost like Patreon in the sense that you're maximizing everything but it's still focusing on the viewer. And at the end of the day, like, you can access so many different things, and you always feel like a part of the stream when you're actually streaming. Like, it's not just like at the day. For example, if I talk about my stream, etc., I'm not doing any of that, in the sense, like, obviously I'm talking to chat and that, but it's nowhere near as like, there's so many ways I could improve in. And at the day, everyone who's tuning in, it's all about figuring out like the fullest potential of the tools you have in front of you, and learning from it and growing it, because you never know what could come out of it.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, at the end of the day, you don't really know. I mean, the internet is so mysterious in the way
Yeah.
people flow and react on the internet, so just random sometimes. But
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, one habit I've gotten myself into actually is not looking at view count at all.
Okay.
So like, because it numbers they affect you,
Yeah,
mentally,
definitely.
and they change the way the tone is, and like if you feel like you're wasting your time and things are not going the way you want them to go, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because you have this preconceived idea of how you want it to go, then you get frustrated. You end stream early because there's just not that many people there. It changes your like performance. You know what I'm saying? So
Yeah.
so it's better to just not look at that number at all unless it's after stream or whatever, and
Yeah.
just put on the show that you want to put on. And if it's something that is worthwhile, people will eventually figure it out and show up. And if they think you're doing a good enough job, they will naturally support what you're doing. So
Of
it's
course.
it's just kind of letting it have its own natural flow instead of trying to force it so much,
Yeah.
which I see a lot of that. I really do, like people really getting affected by numbers, and
Yeah.
trying to force more support too much, pushing
Yeah.
into it too much. And
Like, spamming things like crazy. You just wonder, it's okay, but we're not. It's like, like, for example, like, I remember the first time. Oh, dude, you nailed it there perfectly. Like, the first time I started streaming, all I did the whole time, like, because you can see my face right now, so I just go like that, looking at the rear camera. What's going on here? And then, like, there'd be so many things kicking off, but then at the day, it goes back to the most obvious thing, and it's the thing that you prioritize the most, and it's just like doing what you love, and
right.
like keeping
No.
consistent at it, as
Yeah, I mean,
like, it's just
if
doing it.
if if I'm streaming and I'm working and nobody's really talking in chat, which happens sometimes
Mm-hmm.
because we have a big lurker audience, then I just work. I just work on
Yeah.
my stuff. I talk about it here and there. I just kind of keep things moving forward.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna get all discouraged and be like, nobody's talking, I'm out of here. It's like, no, I'm here to, I'm here to do my work
Yeah.
and share with everybody. And
I've
if
got my
people,
clay. I'm sorted.
yeah, right, so it's just like, I don't know. It's definitely good. It's good to talk. It's good, and that's something I've been always trying to get better at. Is
Mm-hmm.
is whether people are talking to you or not, just kind of talking out to the air.
Yeah.
Because you are live. And even if there's only one person there,
Yeah.
or even if there's no people there, you have to be in that habit of
Of
just,
course.
I'm live. I don't care how many people are here. I'm live. I'm here to do my show. I'm gonna
Mm-hmm.
do it how I want to do it. I'm gonna put my energy into this.
Yeah.
No matter the outcome, because this is what I want to do. And
That,
then whatever the outcome is, it
yeah.
is.
That's what I'm talking about. That's awesome. Because like, everyone who's tuning in, highly recommend you to check out stream. You'll be seeing everything being playing right now on the background as you've been listening to the podcast. So the big thing that I'm pretty sure everyone's been waiting for is the process. So like, when it comes to the questions, I'm sure you get fired these questions all the time on Twitch. I've seen it many times on the chat. But when it comes to your process as an artist, can you kind of it's kind of a big question for me to say describe your process, but how do you kind of get things rolling?
Okay. So I mean, for me, it's for the most part, it's fairly simple because I have a objective
Mm-hmm.
from the beginning. Like I have a client who wants something specific. They can be really specific, like they want, a very detailed out character in a specific pose, with certain colors, like,
Yeah.
or they can be very unspecific. I just want this character. You do whatever you want with it. Just make it look cool,
Mm-hmm.
And I get more of that than anything. People just want very specific character. let me kind of come up with the pose and the be the actual artist for them, because most people, they're paying me to make something because they're not the artist. You know what I'm saying? I'm
Yeah.
the artist, so it's better to let me do my job effectively and come up with but they know what they want. They know they want a certain character. So
Yeah.
anyway, so I start with that, and my whole process revolves around just thinking of the next step and not
Mm-hmm.
thinking of the whole thing too much and letting the thing kind of grow on its own. So the first step for me would be, I have my character in front of me. Okay, what's the anatomy of it? I'm going to create a wire frame or a structure
Mm-hmm.
um, in the size that I want it to be, and then yeah, so I start with that. I have a wire frame. That's like my sketch. It's like a skeleton of the character. I make it to the size that it needs to be. I put all where the elbows bend and the knees bend where they need to be, depending on the character.
Sweet.
And then I go ahead.
Oh.
Oh, what were you gonna say?
No, I just said sweet.
Oh, sweet. Oh, okay.
so,
I
I was
thought I
like,
interrupted
I
you.
thought you disappeared there. I was like, what's going on, Chris? He's vanished. He's
Nah,
left me.
nah, nah. So you have your skeleton, and then I think, okay, next step. What's the next step here? Okay, I need to figure out what's going on in the scene. What's the pose of the character, the flow, all that stuff. So I use the skeleton like a action figure. I bend it around, and I pick something that if it looks good in that wire skeleton phase, if it looks good as a composition and a pose there, it's going to look good when it's fully fleshed out and
Mm-hmm.
detailed out too. So you start with those fundamental basics. So then it's like, okay, now I have my pose, I got my flow. Okay, what's next? Like, what's the next step? Well, okay, now let's start adding some mass to this.
Mm-hmm.
So add the tinfoil, add the clay, um, figure out the anatomy. Anatomy is the next. And I'm just so single focused on one task at a time. So now it's just, okay, let's make these muscles in the groups that they need to be, where they need to
Mm-hmm.
be, and get this thing, ready for its first baking phase. And then you just bake it, and then lock everything in that you did on the anatomy, which, I mean, you know how it is on the centaur. So,
Yeah.
I sketched the whole centaur out, knowing that I'm only going to be doing a certain part.
Mm-hmm.
And then, yeah, I get the anatomy, I really fine tune it, and then I add, any texture or details, bake it, lock it in. Now I'll focus on like the armor, like
Mm-hmm.
each little section. I'll do like, what kind of armor does he have here? Kind of do some sketching, throw some clay around, see what looks good, and then just run with those ideas. And
Perfect.
each time, because of the material I use, it's like hitting save as, but you can bake the project multiple times. So I will very, very single targetly focus on one area
Mm-hmm.
till it looks good, bake it, lock it in, work on another area. So,
Yeah.
you do the arms separate, the hands, the head. They're all like separate projects that all go together in the
Mm-hmm.
end. And then, yeah, and then you get to you get it all baked, you get the character done, and then you decide what's going on in the base or the scene around it. So I have no
Building up.
idea. Yeah, exactly. I have no idea what's going on in the setting of a character until it gets to that point. So
Mm-hmm.
like people always ask me about like colors and like what's on the base and all that stuff. I'm like, I
I
don't
don't
know.
know.
Like, or, I don't know. I'm not thinking about that. I think
Yeah.
that's the thing. People think that you need to have everything so like clear in your mind and
Mm-hmm.
planned out. And some people work that way, and that's fine for them. But for me, it's easier to just focus on one area at a time, put all your creative energy and detail and craftsmanship into that one area or that
Of
one
course.
step,
Completely agree.
and then move on to the next step. You ask yourself, what's the next step? Okay, and then start working on it and look at it, and then in the end you'll end up with something better than if you would have planned it all out at the beginning in like a sketch, and then really like were anal about sticking to that idea originally. Because while it's a long process. You're like 50 to 150 hours of work.
Yeah.
You're gonna come up with better ideas than what you did in that like hour or two of planning at the beginning, right?
Yeah.
So you need to just let those ideas in and let them, and the only way to do that is to not have that original plan, and don't don't really stick to something, just because you planned it at the beginning.
Mm-hmm.
Like if you see something better, then you go for it. So you
Yeah.
just, and that's the way my whole method works.
That
So then I get to, the painting phase. Now I didn't even think about color at all, and now all I'm thinking about is
is color.
color. Yeah, and so you just kind of follow one step at a time.
Yeah.
It's funny because it's kind of reflective of life itself, like the
One
way
step
you
at a
work.
time. Yeah.
Yeah, and the way life rolls too, like
Yeah.
if you have this plan, right, this sketch of what your life should be,
Mm-hmm.
right, and you're looking down and you really want it to be that,
Mm-hmm.
and you really stick to it, then you kind of resist and block other opportunities that
Yeah.
come your way because you want that specific idea that you're thinking about. And then when that thing doesn't happen, what happens? You naturally get frustrated and angry, and like
Oh, what a great answer.
frustration.
Yeah.
That's sort of the source of frustration when you think about it, comes from
Yeah.
is having some idea that doesn't go the way it should or the way you
Definitely.
wanted it to. So if you just take out that having that idea and just go with it, whatever's in front of you
Mm-hmm.
at any time, then you're going to be a very less frustrated person, so.
Completely agree. Like I feel like oh, that's an amazing answer. And dude, that was so epic. It's just so cool. Like it's just like when it comes to so I was always a culprit of this when I was starting out doing my art journey because so I'm an environment artist and so I do 3D and sculpting, etc. Like my favorite thing to do is furniture. So
Okay.
I love sculpting furniture, and then also I love creatures as well. Like one of my favorite artists is like John Howe and like Alan Lee from Lord of the Rings, and geeking out so much about them. However, one of the main things I always struggled with was I always, like you said, I would be so OCD with everything and wanting something a specific way. But like you said, doing things naturally, letting things just unfold, being patient with it. Like patience was the biggest thing I've ever learned in my life. Like I'm literally the most patient person you'll ever meet, and it's like I got such a reality check when I was 19 that I just kind of step back and like obviously I work really hard. Like I still strive and make sure that I'm constantly going towards my goal. But what you're saying there when it comes to your craft, it's like you want to make it not feel like a burden as well. Like you want to enjoy every moment and in like just you're making the most of your time. And like when it comes to your process as well, like one of the really cool things, I don't know why I only caught onto it when you started sculpting the centerpiece, but when you're adding the clay, so you always add obviously extra wire just to make sure like you don't get the proportions wrong.
Yep.
It took, I don't know why it took me like 10 minutes for that to click, and you even explained it. I was like, wait, what's he doing here? Why is the wire so long? And I was like, oh, that makes so much sense now.
It's because I've made that mistake enough times,
Yeah.
to change that. Because like, I've sculpted projects in the past where it's like I will cut the arms to the length that I think they need to be
Mm-hmm.
and the legs, and then all of a sudden you add material and it looks different,
Yeah.
and then things need to shift, and now it's like, oh, I need my wire back that I had clipped off before,
Mm-hmm.
and it's a big pain in the butt to add that. But yeah, so that's just from experience, using that experience, that frustration in the
Mm-hmm.
past to like change the way I work
Yeah.
to have less frustrations in the future, so.
So when it comes to speaking of like frustrations and stuff, obviously like what you never show it when you're streaming, but so take Drogon for example, and when you were experiencing the bit that broke off for the wing, so like you were trying to figure out how to fix it and then readjust it, so you had to like when it comes to clay, is that like a difficult process? Because I know you're using polymer, etc. But like, how difficult is it when like you're so far into a project and then like trying to disguise that, almost like making it seamless in a way?
Yeah, I don't know, man. It's just,
Just trial and error, seeing what happens.
yeah, yeah. It's just, I know I've used a certain amount of materials enough
Mhm.
to know kind of like their limits. You know what they
Yeah.
can and can't do. And whenever a problem happens, you just deal with it.
Yeah.
You don't get mad about it. You don't get frustrated about it. It's just another challenge,
Yeah.
a little bump on the road. So just
Of
you just
course.
kind of try your best, keep your hands moving, trust your abilities, and get it done. So
Perfect. Because like also your process, like I remember early on, like there was one question I was always curious was why you made the head separate in terms of the wiring part. But then I understood later on when you were doing just a normal head sculpt. I think I trying to remember if you were talking about the Iron Maiden piece,
Eddie. Yeah.
and you were saying that you just want to have that control to be able to detail the head on its own, and then like is it you drill it into the like you drill it in or something? Like how does that kind of connect up?
Yeah, so any part that connects, right?
Mm-hmm.
So like a head connects to the body and a hand connects to the arm. You kind of skip the area and the in between. So the in between of a head and the body is the neck, right?
Mm-hmm.
The in between of the hand and the arm is the forearm, so you create the bicep, right? Okay, let's talk about the head. So you create the head
Yeah.
and you detail it, and that lets you hold on to it really close, get in there, move
Yeah.
it all the way around without having to move the whole piece, because if you sculpt the head on the character, you have to move the whole thing now
Yeah.
to be able to get all the angles and stuff. So it's better do it separate, nice and small. When you do it this way, you have to really make sure that the size is correct, because it's easy to get your size wrong if it's separate. So you'll see how at the very beginning I always check the size over and over again before I get too deep into it, because
Yeah.
if it's too big, you spend all like 10 to 12 hours working on this head, and then you get done and you're like, oh, it's too big or it's
Yeah.
too small.
Oh, it's the worst feeling ever.
Then you have to start over. So it's better to always take those extra little moments to just put it on the character, make
Mm-hmm.
sure the size is okay, that you're happy with it. And even if there's a slight amount of unhappiness, you need to address it, because
Yeah.
we have this tendency to kind of blind ourselves to what's there, and then you get done with it
Oh,
and
I
you're like,
completely
I knew
agree.
it.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're like, I knew it was wrong from the
It's
beginning.
like, gosh darn
I
it.
didn't want to do anything. Yeah, so you have to really get in the habit of, okay, if it's wrong, you need to change it now, because it's going to be a pain in the butt and a waste of time to change it later, and you'll
Yeah.
probably end up just not changing it and then end up with some disproportionated piece. So,
Yeah.
so anyway, so you create the head, you bake it. It's a great entity all on its own, and then you have the body underneath. The shoulder line and all that stuff is baked, and then you just drill a hole into the kind of like the neck stub. You don't really detail the neck, you just kind of have a little stub there.
Okay.
You drill a hole into there that the wire that's on the head fits into, and then position the head how it needs to be. And then once those two are connected like that, you can even glue it in there. Then you sculpt the neck. And then that
Perfect.
kind of like creates that seamless transition, because the way the neck looks depends on how the head is turned, right?
Yeah.
So you can't know how the neck is unless you have the head. So you need to create the head. And it's the same thing with forearm muscles. The way the forearm is shaped and the way the muscles are all depends on what the hand is doing.
Mm-hmm.
So you need to create the hand first to be able to know what the forearm is doing. So
Yeah. No,
yeah,
because
it's just that.
like I think it's like when you're working on the piece, like one of the things this is actually one thing I would love to do. You're gonna be laughing when I say this, but do you know when you're actually making like the twisted wire?
Yeah,
It's like it
with the
look
drill.
like I've never done it before, but it always looks so cool. Like I remember one of your streams you were saying about so you were teaching at CSU, and you said
Uh-huh.
that you'd have to make the wire like the same length. It was almost like the length of the class, because obviously everyone has to have like a piece of the
Twisted
wire,
wire.
and you're just
Yeah.
like there like with the drill, and you're just like twisting it around.
Yeah, that's the first thing I do when I land there. Before, because I usually have a half a day to set up the class
Yeah.
when I go to teach. And that's the first thing I do, because if I don't twist the wire with the drill, then
Mm-hmm.
that's leaving the students to do it, and there are going to be a lot of
They,
kids
yeah,
people
causing.
poking each other with wire. Yeah, so I was like, I'll just do this part for them. So yeah, it's usually like I land there, I get an assistant. They hold the wire on one end with the pliers. I hold the
Yeah.
wire on the other end of the drill and just twist up a ton of it and cut it to length. And, yeah.
So, do you think when it comes to obviously your process and when it comes to artists tuning in, do you think the one of the main things you notice that they're maybe doing wrong or they could do better at is actually that, just as cliche as it sounds, like obviously anatomy is key, it's the maker or breaker of everything when it comes to characters and creatures. But do you think kind of getting better at that kind of skeleton base and kind of approaching that is like the biggest step that they could actually apply to their artwork.
Yeah, well, and it's also just training yourself to be unbiased with your work,
Yeah,
because a lot of times we'll like get really attached to the work that we're doing,
yeah,
and you slightly notice things that are wrong or off, especially with anatomy and scale, but you don't address it. You just kind of keep moving. You're so like in love with the details that you've added onto that arm that you don't want to change that arm,
yeah.
so because you'd have to redo all that work. So kind of like not getting attached to your work so much and being really kind of like harsh on yourself,
Mm-hmm.
when it comes to judging things look right,
Do you
and
like? Sorry to cut you off there. I wasn't trying to be rude. Like
that's
when it comes to like your journey as a whole. Just this is a bit of a random. I'm pretty sure everyone will be interested to hear. Do you have like a favorite piece?
that I've done.
Yeah, I've all
Oh boy.
like I have all the pieces. So I came across your work because of the two pieces. So it was Rockbiter and then the Hobbit piece. Like
Okay.
that's where I came across your work, and I was like, right, I'm gonna
Yeah,
watch you on stream now. This is
it's
this is it from non-stop.
it's a good time to get on board. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, people ask me that a lot. I'm just not a person to pick favorites,
Well,
especially when there's too
that's
many
fine.
to pick from.
Yeah.
But typically my most recent piece is always my favorite, and that's because
Good.
it's new. It's my best work usually. But there are a lot of projects I've done in the past that just kind of like always stand out.
Yeah.
Like you said, the Hobbit piece, Rexar and Misha were a big one.
Okay.
Uh, that I think they just look good, and
The Zerglings
I
as
don't know,
well.
man.
Can't forget them.
Yeah, I mean, it's just you gotta think. I've been doing it for so long. There's literally like thousands of projects that I've
Oh
done.
my word. Yeah.
That it's hard to pick a group, let alone just one. That kind
Yeah.
of like stands out because each project is a different challenge of one way or another. So you
Yeah.
learn something from everything,
Mhm.
and you grow. And uh, I don't know. For me, there's never a project that I'm not happy with because it wouldn't be finished if I wasn't happy with
Yeah.
it. You know what I'm saying? So
Definitely.
even my old work, I still feel really satisfied with the
Yeah.
way my old stuff looks.
Like, oh, I'm so happy you said that. Like, at the end of the day, it's like there's so many. Like, I don't know if it's because of maybe it's because of our backgrounds and stuff. But so I came from a background of sports, so that's literally my whole childhood first, and I was always kind of like obviously I love sport and I enjoyed it. So when I got into 3D and I came across it, like I was just so geeking out. I didn't care about the negatives or anything. Like every time I'm
Yeah,
making art, like it's like what you said there. Like I'll look back at my first piece and I'd just be like, I loved making it at the time and I enjoyed it, so I know what I got out of it. And like so many people, especially artists, like there's people get down on themselves a lot of the time, and like they
yeah,
overthink things, and it's just like you're doing art. It's like that's what you enjoy. It's just the more you do it, the better you become. If you know what I mean?
yeah. And there's people like to. I think there's a lot of traps mentally that get
Mhm.
people down, and one of them is when you compare yourself to others too much.
Yeah.
Then you tend to get really depressed, and because your work isn't at that quality yet,
Yeah.
and stuff like that. And I always tell people you shouldn't compare yourself to others. You should compare yourself to yourself.
Mhm.
And as long as you are growing, you're doing better than you did yesterday or the year before,
Yeah.
like then you're good, So and that's why it's good too, because a lot of people I think are ashamed of showing their older work,
Yeah.
and a good thing to show because it shows that you're growing and that you're improving, and people like to see that. So
Yeah.
and you shouldn't be ashamed of that. So
Thanks for saying that, because at the end of the day, it's like you just got to keep doing it. As cliche as it sounds, it's just
yeah,
it's
yeah,
a game of patience. It's trial and error. It's accepting failures. It's not getting discouraged. It's keep
yeah.
working at it. Like when it
You'll
comes,
100% stop improving if you
yeah,
stop doing it.
you just got to keep
You
like
can't improve if you don't do it. Yeah.
yeah, like think about the amount of hours you do per week, and then like people like for example, say if anyone says in your chat like, "Oh my gosh, you're so good. How do you do that?" And then you just look back, like say if we give you a track record, it's just like, well, he's just done 10 hours basically 5 days a week for like 10 years, and then probably all the extra hours like that you grind it on the outside, etc. And then people are like, that makes sense now.
Yeah, right.
It's like the reality kicks in, and it's like I think everyone's always looking for a secret ingredient, and that's it's
Yeah,
you know what I mean.
you're right. They are. They're looking for something other than just the hard work involved and the
Yeah.
time and the commitment. It's always like, oh, you're so lucky you were born with this
Oh, I
miraculous
can't stand that
gift, and
phrase.
it's like,
Oh my
it's
gosh,
like,
it's the worst.
no, no, and I think about this kind of stuff all the time, and I
Yeah.
think the only thing that I am born with that maybe other people aren't born with
Yeah.
is just that kind of like that natural attraction, or that when you see something that you really like and you
Yeah.
pursue it. So
Definitely.
that attraction to being an artist or creating artwork was always there for me from
Of
the
course.
beginning. So yes, I was given that, but to get good at it, I had to pursue it and I had to put in the work.
Yep.
So some people aren't. They're not going to desire and want to be an artist or to create sculptures and stuff like that, and that's fine. But they will have something else
Yeah.
that really just it's like when a moth sees a light,
Yeah.
and they're just
Completely.
like fascinated by it, and they just have to go for it. There's certain things you come across in life that they're your passions, that those are the things that I think you're born for. And I mean, and this gets into beliefs, but I believe we are all we all here for a reason to do
Yeah.
certain things, and that's that sign that this is the thing that I'm supposed to be doing.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Because I'm so just drawn to it, and it's not just one thing. You go through life and you find more things that are like that. Like for me, it's like gardening. I
Yeah.
love
Oh, nice.
growing. I have a big garden where I grow vegetables, and just the idea of growing your own food is like, ever since I found it, it's just like it's like it's like your crack, you
Yeah.
just can't get enough
Also,
of it.
yeah, of
So
course.
yeah, I guess the advice to people that are thinking that it's like yeah, anybody can do what I do, but not everybody will have the desire
Yeah.
to do what I do. But at the same time too, there's that discipline side, because there's sometimes where I don't want to sculpt, or I don't want to work. I just want to play games, or I want to watch movies or something and not do it. And you have
Yeah.
to have discipline. You have to have
Yeah.
that little that little drill sergeant inside your head, drill sergeant version of yourself that tells you, no, you have to do this. Like, you have to do this today. You need to stick with it. It's just
Yeah.
so. And, those are all.
Oh, I was just gonna say, great answer.
Oh yeah. I think people, they don't realize that there's these like non-physical muscles that we have to spend our lives training.
Definitely.
Patience is one of them. Everyone thinks like, oh man, I wish I was born with that patience that you have.
Yeah.
It's like, bodybuilders aren't born super buff.
Yeah, of course.
No,
Yeah.
they work it out. They make their muscles big and
Yeah.
strong by training it. You start small and you work your way all the way up to the bigger weights. And patience and hard work and all that stuff. Those are all those like hidden muscles that nobody really talks about, but they're there. And if you just train them, it sucks at first, right? Just like when you first start going to the gym, it really sucks. And you're sore at the end of the day, but each day that goes by that you're training that, you get stronger and stronger, and then eventually you do have that patience, and you do have that determination to just do whatever. So.
That's an amazing answer, because at the end of the day, like, there's so many people out there, and you just got, like, everything that Chris has said, like, you've just got to keep going for it, and just keep being persistent, like we've discussed. Like, you name it, whether if you've got a love for sculpture, maybe you're not doing that how can I say, you're early on in your stages right now, that's okay. Everyone starts there, and it's just down to, like Chris is saying, you got to keep working at it. He's done it for years, and you just keep building it up. And one great thing that he said there as well is that, like he said, he has a passion for this and that, and he followed it. And as cliche as this sounds, like, you have to also, like, be honest with yourself in terms of, like, do you really, like, enjoy something? Like, do you have to be, like, 100% real, like, all the time? Like, that's how I've always done it. And that's actually how I started this podcast. So my family can't get me to shut up. Like I'm always talking, and Chris, you said the same thing as well. It's like you're so used to talking all the time, and like I was like, well, I enjoy talking, I enjoy helping people, so I started a podcast, and that's the reason why. I'm doing something that I feel like I know I'm 100% like committed to, and I absolutely love doing. And it's the same when I'm sculpting furniture. And at a day, like listen to everything that he said, and learn to grow. And it only takes one step. You don't need to do everything that we've discussed today. It's only like the first step, and it's always the hardest step. So if you're wanting to get better at sculpture, do what Chris is saying. Take that first step into maybe just experiment. It doesn't have to be anything perfect. Just, is it a head? Maybe you're sculpting a head. That's your first step. And you just build it, and you keep building it until eventually you become Cnotbusch and take over Twitch. Simple.
Yeah.
So that's just how it is.
If you're feeling a sense of struggle, like you're struggling and you're a little bit frustrated with your work, that's a good thing. That's
Definitely
a really
agree.
good thing. Because if you're not struggling, then you're not growing.
Mm-hmm.
And I think people are really put off by that feeling of struggle, but you really need to rewire your brain to just embrace struggle and like kind of like take it head on, and just it's like a puzzle that you just can't solve, and you just got to keep trying until you can.
Yeah.
You know? And yeah, so.
Well, speaking of puzzles, well, like you said, so King's Quest. Oh, by the way, if you guys aren't tuning into his Saturday streams, you guys have to. Oh, by the way, Chris, I was so gutted last night, right? So I was like, I had to get to sleep. It was so late. I was like, I need to go to bed, so I'm gonna make sure I go. Don't spoil anything, by the way. You're not allowed to say anything about your latest chapter, okay? I've only got up to I've only got to the point where I don't even know what you call it. It's
Was it the archer? The
archer bit.
Yeah.
So he like, at the archer bit, and then I was like, wait, what's he doing here? Because I had my two screens on, and I was like, I've missed 10 minutes of this. It's like I need to turn it back on. It's like
I failed so many times.
Oh, it's fine, man. It's okay.
That's I mean, I can sit there on a puzzle game and fail a million times, and that's because I've done that with the clay. You know?
Of course.
I've failed that puzzle game a million times, and I just am too stubborn. You know, humans have this ability to be so stubborn with things, and you should really use that on something like this, and not use it on something like, you know, when somebody telling you you're doing something wrong and you're so stubborn that you don't want to change. You know, like a lot of people, they're stubborn in the wrong
reasons.
Arenas. The wrong arenas. You know, like we humans have this amazing ability to be stubborn. So be stubborn about solving those puzzles, you know, and getting better, you know, like apply it to that. So
of course. Oh, dude, this made me laugh so much. Like when you saw it on the stream, right? It was the first time we see King's Quest watching you play through them. And do you know when is that Sir Alexander? He's like, I want my new name, Sir Caduceus.
Oh yeah.
I couldn't stop laughing, man. It was so funny. Like it's such a good game. Like I never thought till this day, right? By the way, if you're wondering why we're talking about games, because guys, we're just warming up for the crazy random section of the podcast. We've had the greatness, we've heard the journey. Now it's time for some fun. So, but I just thought we should talk about King's Quest because Chris plays every Saturday, yeah, man. So like,
usually every Saturday. Yeah, it's like Saturdays. Part of my life balance is to give myself one day at least where I just not even allowed to work even if I wanted to. I'm not even allowed to. So, and that day's Saturday. So Saturday I usually play games, you know, get some beer, you know, and just take it easy, and that keeps things in check. You know? Yeah,
you got to. It's so important.
It's true. Yeah, it's a reward. It's a work reward, self-rewarding thing, you know, because I can confidently walk into the week and bust my butt all week because I know I'm going to get, you know, Friday starts about Friday midday and ends, you know, it ends on, and then Sunday I'm back to work, you know, so I know I get that time to just take it easy, play games, do whatever. But then I also know when it's time to work that it's time to work, you know. So
it's the discipline at the end of the day, and it's being consistent. It's like you have to generate good habits, and it's getting into that habit of routine. Like I've got myself into a slump at the moment because of well, not in a slump, but I switched my. This is going to sound crazy, but do when you have your sleeping pattern almost the other way around. So
Yeah.
my sleeping patterns.
Sleeping schedule's all
Oh,
whacked. Yeah.
it's all over the place right now, but
Uh,
I've kept everything else consistent because so my job is my podcast, and I'm a presenter, like that's my job, and do my art as well. But it's just like the most important thing is routine. Like at the end of the day, it's like even if it's just half an hour a day, like this is what I used to do when I was starting out. I would literally only do half an hour of art a day, and then make sure I did that at the same time for as long as possible. And then
yep.
I did that for the gym. So when I started going to the gym about 4 years ago, or how many years ago, I would literally be like to everyone. Everyone would always be like, you just see everyone who'd be like, I don't know, hit January time. Everyone would be, yeah, it's time to go to the gym, and then they'd be gone after a month, and I'd be like, yes, the place is myself again. I get the whole place to myself. Sweet. But no one to
Yeah.
get that routine, and it's nailing that routine that's like the most important, I think.
Yeah. Sticking with it. It's a hard thing to do, but it's so rewarding.
Yeah.
Just do it, because you know what you've done. Even if you've committed to only a half an hour of artwork a day or whatever, you've committed to that, and you've gained that skill of telling yourself, hey, I'm going to do this 30 minutes a day every day.
Yeah.
And you do it, so then now when you say, hey, I'm going to do this an hour or 2 hours a day every day, then you do it. Like you've gotten in that ability to kind of control yourself, which is something we're always battling with, right?
Yeah.
Controlling ourselves. So
Constantly going up against it. Right.
yeah.
Chris, here's the first question. Favorite
Okay.
game, and why?
Oh boy.
By the way, we've got a whole list prepared just for you.
All right. So, like I said before, favorites are always hard with me. I always like to just dodge those ones. But I guess if I had to, if I had to pick a favorite game,
I'll give you top two if that makes it easier, or three games.
Oh boy.
Or is it
All
harder?
right. So one game I could probably play indefinitely is modded version of Skyrim.
Ooh, nice, good choice.
I used to play role play modded Skyrim adventures on stream. That was really fun. Infinitely fun. So when you start implementing your creativity to a game, then you can play that game indefinitely. So
yeah.
So I'd have to say that one. Oh geez, man, there's so
You're like, I did not prepare myself for this.
I have two genres of games, and one of them I stay away from, but it tends to be my favorite. The first genre is the black hole games. The games where if you start playing it, it sucks.
Yeah,
your whole life goes into a black hole, and you get stuck in that game. And it's a game that's so big that you can't get out. It's just like a black hole. And then there's the non-black hole games like King's Quest, for example. Bite-sized chunks. It has an ending that's fairly reasonably in sight. Okay, so the three black hole games that are probably my favorite, like I said, Skyrim, Fallout 4, and Witcher 3.
I was waiting for that. I knew you liked The Witcher. I was waiting for it.
I had Witcher 3 installed, like I think it was the beginning of this year, and it was just I felt the black hole pulling me in. So I had to discipline me, had to step in and say, oh, we're done playing that game, even though I really love it and I want to play it, and I just want to, that's all I want to do. This is not good, so I just uninstalled it at that point. I was like, okay, can't do this.
Get rid of that, please. I do too many distractions.
My life has gotten to the point now where it's just so busy that I really only do have that, like that 5-hour block of game time on Saturdays, and that's cool. I can look forward to that.
Yeah.
But you also have to realize there's games out there that are designed to literally to suck you in and take all your time for indefinite amounts of time. So like Witcher 3 is a game I've played it a bunch of times over the years, and I never can beat the game because I get distracted by all the stuff you can do.
Just collecting everything, you name it.
Yeah. I'm like the Gwent card like maniac, running from town to town collecting Gwent cards, and never actually progressing the story and finishing the game. So so that's why you see me on Saturday nowadays, even though I probably prefer the other types of games more. I play games that have a foreseeable end that can be broken into bite-sized chunks like a story game. So but yeah, so I guess that's my answer to that.
Great answer. I was actually going to ask you, this is oh gosh, I think you're going to hate me when I ask you this one. If you had to choose Kingdoms Under Fire or StarCraft?
Oh, jeez. Kingdom Under Fire. Okay. Or StarCraft. Oh boy. StarCraft 1, are you talking about?
Yeah, we'll go StarCraft 1. I'll be nice.
Okay. Man, I feel like I would choose Kingdom Under Fire, to be honest.
Nice. Yeah,
I'm
it's not
more,
gonna be a
I'm just
difficult
way
section.
more.
This.
It was such a game that a lot of people don't know about,
Hmm.
Kingdom Under Fire, and but it was so nostalgic for me
Yeah,
from when I was a kid, because the concept of it was so like cool. You know, you could control a whole army and then become the commander when you get
yeah.
into fights, and there's orcs, and honestly, it's always my number one game genre, or genre in
Hmm.
general, movies, whatever, is medieval fantasy. So
Nice, awesome choice.
yeah, I always choose that over sci-fi. I don't know why. Sci-fi is just I like StarCraft, and there's certain sci-fi games and movies I like, but
Hmm.
it's always medieval fantasy always pulls me in more.
Yeah.
So
Well,
uh,
that's what I've based this. Well, I'm trying to make a healthy balance because I understand. Like, I'm pretty sure I know your stream quite well. So I was gonna say,
yeah, yeah.
Well, basically the previous question. So, Lord of the Rings or The Witcher?
Oh, jeez. Um,
The painful question is like, how dare you torture
that
me, Ross?
if I had to choose, it would be Lord of the Rings for
Yes,
sure. It's just
awesome.
more. It's just, I mean, Witcher has kind of been a background storyline to me because I
Hmm.
played it since the first game. I never read the books, but then the show came out, which is really cool.
Yeah,
I love that, but the Lord of the Rings is just, I don't know.
it's
It's
a
a
whole
lot
other
more
ball
going
game.
on. Yeah, there's a lot more going on there. I think. So
I
bigger world, more drawn out, I guess. So
Yeah, like
yeah,
I can't wait till the Amazon TV show comes out. Like I think it's going to be so awesome. Like I can't wait for that to be a thing. But I have no
yeah,
idea what's
yeah.
going to happen. Like it's all going to be about the story. Like supposedly it's meant to be Aragon, but then again,
Well, when he was Strider, yeah, I think it's
yeah,
when he was, yeah, back before like the Lord of the Rings started up, when
hmm,
they found him in like the corner of the tavern, just chilling there. Yeah,
yeah,
so I bet you, I wonder if the end of the show ends up with him sitting in that corner smoking
yeah,
his pipe. You know, that'd be
yeah.
funny.
That'd
And
be
then he
sick.
sees like hobbits dancing in the background. You
Yeah,
know, like that's what he was doing. So
it's always just kicking off. Oh, that'd be like, oh, dude, that'd be incredible. Like
that'd
just
be an epic end. Just
like
roll right into
oh,
Lord of the Rings. Yeah.
it literally, and it would be Morton. What's his name again? Morton's. Oh, what's his name? Who's the guy who plays Aragorn? I'm gonna get so much hate for this because completely
I don't
forgot.
know. So this is what I always do. I'm so bad with names that
Yeah.
the actors just become their
Oh wait,
characters that I know them by. So
I
he's
remember.
known as, oh, it's
Figo.
yeah, Vigo. Yeah, you're right.
That's the one.
But he's forever Aragon, just like Harry Potter's
Yeah,
forever Harry Potter, and
definitely.
Frodo is forever Frodo. So
It's always the case. I feel so sorry for the
yeah,
creators.
oh, I'm so terrible with names. I don't even feel bad about it anymore. So,
You just got to roll it. He's that guy with the sword and the cool hair when he's just
yeah,
attacking.
yeah,
You're sorted. Well, like that's always
Uh,
the cool thing about Lord of the Rings. Like, I remember once we were talking about this on stream. It's like there's nothing better, right, than watching the making of Lord of the Rings. Or I think I said to you once on stream, there's like this 5 hour video of The Hobbit, and they've unfortunately taken it down off YouTube. I think it must be like a copyright thing. But somebody had this 5 hour documentary of like the
the
making of.
making of, right?
Oh, it's
Yeah,
so cool. It's like
I watched it too. Yeah, that stuff really inspires me.
it's
They did it
coolest.
for the most recent one of those I watched. That's really inspiring was for the Dark Crystal, because
Oh, I've not seen that.
the series. Oh
None
man,
of it at all.
everything in that whole show, almost everything is like handmade, hand sculpted. And
Right?
to watch the behind the scenes of that is really crazy, really inspiring work. So
I'll let you know once I've finally got involved with it because there's so much things like it's always those things I get so carried away. Like when watching the making of like my favorite to date is still Bayon's house, like making how they made Bayon and then like so the creature Bayon and then also his house. Did you see that part as well?
no, no.
Oh,
Oh wait, yeah. It's the giant, right?
yeah, it's
Yeah, okay. I told you I'm bad with names,
yeah,
but
it's okay.
yeah,
Sorry, yeah.
yeah, I remember that part. Yeah, that's crazy.
Like all the
Yeah.
carvings, like the wood carvings of the building. I was just like, so John Howe was just looking into like Nordic culture and like blending them all together, and like Alan Lee was like designing
Hmm.
this like wooden chess set, and you just have like all the bears and everything. And I was just like, Mum, I need to. Like I was talking to my mum about it. I was like, that's the chess piece of all chess pieces.
Yeah, and that's the interesting thing. I've gotten to this point in my career as an artist that I don't ever want to work for somebody,
Mm-hmm.
like, but if I was going
Yeah.
to work for somebody, it would be Weta like workshop. It'd
Yes.
probably be the only it'd probably be the only company that would act if they were to approach me and
Yeah.
want me to work for them, that I would actually consider it. Like any other, there was actually a phase where, when I was this early starting on, that I thought maybe that I always, for a while actually, I thought that I wanted that career job,
Mm-hmm.
working for another company and stuff like that. But the older I've gotten and the more I've gotten into this world, I've realized that's what I'm doing right now is what everybody that has one of those jobs wants.
Yeah.
They want that freedom, they want that working for yourself. So it's like, why would I give all that? When you think about it, it's like, I have to do all the work in my company, but I'm
Mm-hmm.
the one that actually benefits from it too.
Yeah.
Like I'm not putting money in somebody else's pocket.
Yeah.
But yeah, but that would be the one company that would, if they would approach me, Weta, I would be like, yep,
Yep.
sign me up.
Yep. I
When am
dude.
I moving to New Zealand?
Oh, that's like, dude. It's so cool having you on, man, because that's what my life's based around. So like, hopefully moving to Zealand within the next 2 years, and
Okay.
that's literally the only reason why. Like, I want to get into like the whole world of New Zealand, explore like wet digital, you name it. Like, that's literally what my
My wife did a 6 month backpacking stint in New Zealand,
what?
so
Oh, I'm so jealous. That's awesome.
she couch surfed with her friend when she was younger, like a teen, like older teenager, like 18 years
Yeah,
old. Yeah, she couch surfed for 6 months there, in
that's
New
amazing.
Zealand. So yeah, I have some souvenirs. I actually have a replica of the One Ring in a nice wooden box from Weta
Oh,
Workshop
you
here.
got
So
it, man. You've got to have it. It's like
yeah.
that's the greatest thing about seeing your stream, man. It's just like you just see this wall of just greatness. It's just like epicness, everything personified of like sculpture, just what we all love. It's just like clay everywhere. There's, you name it. It's like your setup is like I'm not sure if you've ever done a setup video, but dude, it is so cool. It's just like I could just geek out. Like,
Nah, we thought about doing a video to show the setup, but then we were like, but that kind of takes away the magic of it. So
it's true. Fair enough.
I kind of keep it. Like, people always ask for a room tour because I have a whole workshop behind me.
Yeah.
You guys don't see. It's just
Keep the
what the
suspense.
stream setup is designed to create the atmosphere.
Hmm.
And yeah, me and the missus focus on that stuff a lot, because
Yeah.
at the end of the day, I guess this is a good tip for anybody on Twitch. When people are scrolling through Twitch to find somebody to watch, uh, what do they see? Well, they see a small little icon picture of what's
Hmm.
going on in the stream. So what that tells you is whatever your setup is needs to look good in an icon size.
Yeah.
So it needs to look good at that size, and it needs to draw people in at that small size, and it always needs to look like a picture. You know
Yeah.
what I'm saying? So we designed our stream setup that no matter what's going on, it looks interesting,
Yeah.
and it draws people in no matter what I'm doing, because the
Yeah.
whole background is designed, the lighting's designed to be like a photograph,
Hmm.
a really nice picture. Because, well, I mean, you see it when you scroll through the creative section on Twitch, and you see just kind of like everything kind of looks boring, with
Hmm.
people's setups. So if you can be that one person that's got something that draws people in, and they're just kind of whizzing through, scrolling through,
Yeah.
and their eye just gets drawn to it, and that's kind of the way, that's a great way to grow.
That's
So
the way to
yeah.
do it. Yeah, because you got
Yeah.
the magic webcam going over your neck every time, getting it all set
Yep.
up for the close up. Everything's prepared, zoomed in. You can
Yep.
see what's
Yep.
going on with the hands, dude.
The background's nice, and yeah, yeah,
And
that's how you do it.
and then the most important, which you have the greatest of all time, man, is the soundtrack. Nothing beats your
Yeah. Yeah.
soundtrack. Like Lord of the
Uh,
Rings are rocking, you name it, whatever's going on, it's always movie soundtracks played in your stream, man.
Yep. It's because there's music I like that I know that other people wouldn't like, so I
Right? Yeah,
just
of
don't
course.
to listen to it when I'm on stream. I like the music that I listen to on stream, and I know that it's very universal. That a lot
Hmm.
of people like it, and it really fits the mood. And like every detail about the stream is it's designed. You know what I'm saying? It's
Yeah,
picked for a reason.
of
So
course.
down all the way down to the music that's in the background. So yeah.
Perfect. Dude, it has been an absolute pleasure having you on the podcast, man. Like going into your story about everything, you name it. It's been an absolute blast. Everyone who's tuning in, please make sure to go tune into his streams. You're better at telling the stream schedule than me, so where can people find you?
Okay, well, my Twitch channel, I'm sure you're gonna link it.
Of course,
It's
yeah.
twitch.tv/Cnotbusch,
Mm-hmm.
and I stream Monday through Friday Sculpture, and then Saturday we do games. My schedule is Monday, it's 7 a.m. Central. I start real early, 7 a.m.
Yeah.
Central to right around 5-ish
Wait, you start at 7
p.m.
a.m.? I did not know this. Right, okay.
Yeah. So actually, that's been a big part of the success that I have is when you get into a morning routine, you
Mm-hmm.
tend to have a lot more work in the day. So,
Yeah.
but yeah, I start at 7 a.m. every day, Monday through Friday, and then the times kind of change depending on what day. So like Monday and Tuesday, it's a long 10-hour stream.
Mm-hmm.
Or no, Monday and Thursday, sorry. And then Tuesday and Wednesday, it's split. So I stream 7 a.m. till 11 a.m., get off for like 6 hours, and I get back on at 5 p.m.
Yeah.
till 9 p.m. And then Friday is just the morning stream, 7 a.m. till 11 a.m.
Awesome.
I'm
Like,
out of there. So.
everyone, you got to make the most of it. Like hands down, this guy is like, you're probably one of my favorite streamers, dude. You're definitely up there, man. It's like what you've done is super inspirational. Like I said, make the most of it. You'll be seeing everything we've talked about playing on the slideshow right now. All links are in the description. If you guys are new to the podcast, don't forget to subscribe. Smash the like button as always. Turn on notifications to be notified every single week when the podcast is live. And with that said, folks, we will see you guys in the next episode. Bye for now.